All right, next question. This one's a little more controversial. Back before we had our beginner classes, and you walked in and you just had to roll your first day, the question was, uh, why was the retention of students, why were we losing so many female students?
Yeah, and I said we were losing all students, that females have always come in at a disproportionately smaller amount than our male students, and that's still the case today, right? I mean, men are more likely to join a MMA gym or a Jiu Jitsu school, or just in general be interested in martial arts, guns, knives, all that kind of stuff. And what I was saying is I was losing all students across the board back before I had a foundations program. Because why? Because it wasn't the right way to do things. I was throwing people in the deep end right away. Of course, I was not retaining female students back then, but my point was I wasn't retaining male students back then either. So I don't necessarily think that the foundations program only had an impact on the female population within the gym. It certainly did, but it also had a impact on the male population in the gym and just the overall population in the gym versus what we had back on day one when Leah joined. Leah joined before I had a foundations program.
I was also the only female for quite a while. The first time I rolled with another female was at a tournament a year later. Kisa wasn't really rolling at that point, so it was a while. I do think that the foundations program helped everyone, and having success in drilling right away is important, but I also think that we did lose a higher percentage of women, and maybe that was just because we had those smaller numbers coming in, so each one we lost would have come out to a bigger proportion. I think it was also the fact that if a woman comes in and they weren't formerly an athlete, they would have a very hard time developing the strength or making the techniques work. You have to be able to frame, you have to have some core strength to make the movements work, and that gets very frustrating, or there's injuries that were happening right off that I think were more common for women.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think that just based on some of the differences psychologically between men and women as it relates to fighting and as it relates to combat and that sort of thing. I do think that maybe you're going to have a higher percentage of men that will be able to overcome that immediate aggression onslaught of just being sparring on day one. I mean, that was certainly the environment that I came into 17 years ago. And I think I was equipped to deal with that. And I think maybe there are more men due to their musculature, their testosterone, their ego that maybe could have survived that. I guess my point was that there were a lot of men who couldn't either. And I think we were doing both sexes a disservice. Both females and males were at a disadvantage when we were not bringing them into the fold, when we were not building them up, strengthening them, giving them the tools that they needed to then survive at the next level. And I certainly think that the way we're doing things now is 100 times better than the way that we used to do it. And I can't argue with the fact that we have way more women in the gym now than we did 8 years ago. I mean, it's the point now where I don't know, we might have as many female blue belts in the gym currently as we do male blue belts.
Our foundations class in the evening, which is our biggest foundations class, is actually half women right now, which I've never seen, and that's awesome. The more women you have, I think the more that will join, and Amanda and I being head coaches now, I think makes it a little easier for women to see that path up to black belt. So I think that has helped also.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs role models, right? I mean, we all need role models. They just make things so much easier for us when we can model our behavior after somebody else who already has the things that we want, who's already done the things that we want to do. And so, yeah, 100% having now women like you and Amanda and Lily and Anik, and we've got all these women just coming up through the ranks now. Ash. Yeah, I mean, it's that didn't exist before. And so now somebody like you, 8 years later, had you, maybe that phone conversation with me wouldn't have been an hour long. You know, maybe you would have gone to the website and saw female black belts on the mat, not just training on the mat, but coaching on the mat. So I agree. I think that that's a contributing factor as well.